Accusations of vaccine queue jumping at a long-term care home.
There certainly does seem to be something rotten in a system where you get to jump to the front of the line.
A long-term care home in Vaughan with a history of COVID-19 outbreaks facing controversy tonight after allegations some people jumped the line to get a shot of the vaccine. Plus,
dear, I know, man, it's scary. Just take it easy.
I'm not even resisting. Get off of me.
a violent arrest by Barrie police that was caught on video is now under investigation. What witnesses say happened leading up to the disturbing incident. And
the current hotel shelters that are downtown are full to the brim, and they often just have no extra rooms for people.
to help, the city announcing today it is turning another downtown hotel into an emergency shelter. This as COVID-19 case counts continue to surge among the homeless population. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We begin tonight with a CBC News exclusive. A union is accusing management at one long-term care home of letting family members jump the line to get a vaccine shot. Villa Leonardo Gambin, a home in Woodbridge, has had 4 COVID-19 outbreaks. 25 residents have died. And this is just the latest controversy at the home, which is already dealing with several other grievances related to COVID-19. Lorenda Redicop reports.
The union for many staff at this home says a nurse they represent came to them concerned about vaccinations she was asked to give.
The allegation is that managers called friends and family members and invited them to come into the home, and they advised the registered nurse who was administering the vaccine in the home to vaccinate those people.
Only essential visitors and staff are supposed to be allowed into homes, and this one has an outbreak.
When these folks arrived, they were admitted into the home by one of the senior managers through the front door, despite the fact that, there's supposed to be a ring of steel around long-term care homes.
The union's official grievance, filed yesterday, alleges the employer has compelled members to provide vaccinations to individuals outside of the appropriate direction and orders of public health, and a violation of the health and safety of the griever by allowing prohibited access to the facility. The union says it also sent an email to public health officials and the Ministry of Health, detailing the complaint, plus another one that the nurse also reported that a medical professional at the home removed doses of the vaccine for what appeared to be his personal use. York Region Public Health says once vials are punctured, they cannot be moved from a site and must be used within 6 hours. Its advice for the first round of shots was to call essential caregivers to prevent waste.
If these allegations are proved to be correct, this is just completely unacceptable. And frankly, when we're actually abusing a system that we all need to be working together around, this actually means we're wasting doses and we're actually costing lives.
The chair of the board for Villa Leonardo Gambin responded to CBC. In a statement, Andrew Iacobelli says there were a few instances where vaccines were at risk of expiring. So they extended the offer for vaccinations to family members of staff and volunteer board members. He says he also received a vaccine. He says staff and residents were offered doses first. And he says they take allegations that vaccines may have been removed from the home seriously, and they're looking into it. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
The Ministry of Labour has issued 9 orders for unsafe work conditions at a Milton prison following a massive COVID-19 outbreak at the facility. Inspectors from the Ministry of Labour toured Maplehurst Correctional Complex several times over the past few weeks after an outbreak of the virus was declared on January 19th. The union representing workers at the facility say at least 116 inmates and 64 staff have tested positive for COVID-19. Premier Doug Ford will announce details of reopening Ontario's economy next week as the number of daily COVID-19 cases continues to decline. The province is reporting just over 1,600 cases today, and there were 45 deaths among people with the illness. Health officials administered almost 7,700 doses of vaccines yesterday. Just under 88,000 people have received both shots required for immunization. Well, more now on a story we brought you last night about the violent arrest by a police officer in Barrie, caught on video. The OPP has confirmed it will be investigating the incident. And meanwhile, we are learning more tonight about what led up to the arrest. Witnesses say the man ran a red light on his skateboard and it escalated from there. And a warning, the video is disturbing. At one point, the man is pinned by an officer who then hits him in the head. Ali Chiasson reports.
This cell phone video was posted to Facebook yesterday afternoon. A Barrie police officer has a 20-year-old man pinned to the ground. Witnesses shout, and the man being arrested responds.
I know, man, it's scary. Just take it easy.
I'm not even resisting. Get off of me.
The video does not show what led up to the arrest. Bystanders shout that the man was only skateboarding and that the officer was using excessive force. A CBC camera operator, who's also an auxiliary OPP volunteer, was in the area on an unrelated assignment that day. He steps in for about a minute. A CBC spokesperson says the company is reviewing this interaction. He walks away after the officer pulls out a taser.
Right now, or I'm lighting you up.
Just do what he says, man.
The officer appears to strike the man with the butt end of the taser.
What are you doing, man?
A second officer arrives. They flip him over, and the first officer appears to hit him again.
I got it all.
The Special Investigations Unit has not invoked its mandate. It does so when serious injury is caused to a civilian by a police officer. CBC Toronto spoke to the man's older brother. He says he ran this red light on his longboard and he was being ticketed for that. He was detained for about 30 minutes. He says his brother admits to mouthing off to one of the officers before leaving, and that's when things escalated and witnesses started recording video. The man was charged with causing a disturbance and assault with attempting to resist arrest. Barrie's Mayor Jeff Lehman says he's seen the video and it will be investigated fully and accountability will be had. The officer has been reassigned pending the investigation. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Barrie.
Toronto City Council is greenlighting the return of the Café TO program this spring. The program was launched to help struggling business owners during the pandemic by allowing them to expand their patios onto the streets. The program will return in May with some improvements. Restaurants will be allowed to build decks, platforms, and fencing around their patios. Registration will be streamlined and accessibility also improved. Council also passed a motion today to encourage more restaurants in suburban areas to take part in the program. Last year, 800 restaurants took part in Café TO. Well, it's something he's done for almost 30 years, honoring Black Canadians by bringing them to life in a poster.
Knowing that I'm providing that image to someone that I didn't have on a national scale is very empowering.
We'll bring you our conversation with the man behind the legacy posters coming up. Plus,
well, we're all taking the plunge as this colder air moves in, and also these strong winds. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Driving snow squalls. We'll have your complete weekend forecast coming up after the break.
The city's shelter system is continuing to struggle with the spread of COVID-19, with almost a dozen shelters experiencing an outbreak last week alone. To allow for more physical distancing, the city has announced it is leasing the downtown Novotel Hotel and turning it into another temporary homeless shelter. Jessica Ng has the details.
This is a community that had very little option before COVID. And when COVID hit, a lot of those resources just went away.
Lorraine Lamb is an outreach worker at Sanctuary Toronto.
It is really stressful. I hear a lot of community talk about how lonely they feel because of the social isolation and the disconnect. But I also hear a lot of stress as people are struggling with increasing food insecurities.
And not having a place to stay. Today, the City of Toronto announced it will be leasing the Novotel on the Esplanade until the end of the year. Esplanade Place will act as temporary shelter for about 200 people, with one person per room.
Especially with more transmissible variants on the way, it's critical that we get shelter hotels like this one open and open now.
City Councillor and Board of Health Chair Joe Cressy says the city has opened more than 40 additional shelter spaces during the pandemic.
Ending chronic homelessness has always been possible and is possible. It just requires political will and resources.
The new space will have staff on site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, offering support for mental and physical health. Residents will also be assigned workers to help them develop a permanent housing plan. Things Lamb says should have been done sooner. She says over 2,000 temporary housing spots are needed in the city right now.
There have been several hotel shelters that have opened up, which people have been really excited to go to, but a number of them are quite far from downtown, which makes it very inaccessible for people. And the current hotel shelters that are downtown are full to the brim.
But while she's glad a new facility will soon be opening, she has concerns. Toronto reported 10 COVID-19 outbreaks at homeless shelters last week alone.
At a time when we're told to socially distance, some of the options that are made available to people are congregate settings. So it's very contradictory to what we're told to do. So people don't feel safe staying in congregate settings.
The new temporary shelter will open on February 22nd. Jessica Ng, CBC News, Toronto.
Partly cloudy tonight and very cold, currently -6 in downtown Toronto, but feeling more like -16. Colette Kennedy joins us now. And Colette, first of all, happy National Weather Person's Day. We appreciate you every day. And the winter chill is back. The winds too, very gusty tonight.
There's so much to talk about, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. I enjoy getting a little bit of love now and then, and I appreciate everyone who sent some messages over social media. That was really, really kind of you today. Big changes, right, between what we had yesterday and where we're at now, and with those strong winds Kelda's talking about. Yeah, some snow squall warning and watch areas. Also driving wind chills by tomorrow morning, feeling like about -20. And another system coming through. Light snow, but kind of widespread here, and that'll be later Saturday and into the early part of Sunday. But look at how the temperatures changed. So we knew this was happening. This was the forecast, but 2 degrees in Toronto this morning. The cold air was already in place in southwestern Ontario, so -5. And then by the afternoon hours, if we stop it there, essentially we were about 10 degrees colder in the city than we were at the same time yesterday as the system worked its way through and is dropping this polar air in place. So the areas you see in pink, the areas most vulnerable with our snow squalls, especially when we have this west to southwesterly flow, those will shift a little bit more to the west, but it still impacts the same areas through the Bruce Peninsula and the Lee of Georgian Bay, a little spot here towards Niagara region, and also that risk really setting up there over towards the Kingston area as those winds kick in across Lake Ontario. So watch the wind gusts too. So the numbers here in terms of how strong the winds are. Today there were gusts up towards 70 kilometers an hour, and even as we head into tomorrow morning and through the day tomorrow, they'll be strong. By tomorrow evening, finally we'll see these backing off and getting slightly more comfortable, but still giving us significant wind chills. You can see how that plays out. Quite a bit of cloud cover and some flurries still hanging in around the GTA. At times we may get some sunny breaks. And then this is the system that comes in. So first for southwestern Ontario, and then that's overnight Saturday into Sunday morning, still in play here as it pushes through and then begins to clear out towards the latter part of Sunday, and more lake effects sets up once again. Your temperatures tonight, -11 for the low, Windsor, but tomorrow the high only about -6. Tonight it feels like -20, and tomorrow afternoon it's still going to feel like about -15 or in that range. Your lows tonight around the GTA with those strong winds. Really, it's the wind chill you need to take into account because, again, close to -20 there. Saturday we had to a high of -5. You know, some of these numbers here when we're into the -12, -10, that's actually seasonal for the overnight temperatures. It's these daytime highs that it's more noticeable because it's really running cool. We don't actually warm up that much. And by the way, another system coming through. Looks like another weak one, but some light snow into Tuesday. This system here likely in that 1 to 4 centimeter range between the lakeshore and then getting away from the lakeshore at Kelda.
Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Every February, Toronto-based artist Robert Small takes out his sketchbook to honor notable Black Canadians. He's been creating legacy posters ever since Black History Month was officially recognized in 1995. Asha Tomlinson spoke to Small about his work and his desire to keep creating.
Each year I feel empowered by someone's story. The poster for this year is focused on people that have demonstrated resiliency, so I've been very proud about creating this poster for this year. My name is Robert Small. I'm the artist behind the Legacy poster.
Robert's been producing the Legacy poster every Black History Month for almost 3 decades.
Robert, so good to see you.
It's really good.
Elbow.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right? Exactly.
I did that in 2006, so I'm very proud of it, obviously.
It's gorgeous. But it was important for you to feature Black Canadians for Black Canadians. Why did you start doing it way back when?
And I just kind of remembered when I was in grade 6 and I was so hungry for a positive image of a Black person, being the one Black child amongst like 30 white kids, right? The kids that I grew up with treated me well, but I still felt isolated based upon that reason inside. Knowing that I'm providing that image to someone that I didn't have on a national scale is very empowering.
I grew up knowing about your poster. My mom, has your posters in her home. Families like ours had your posters. Schools had your posters on display. Banks have your poster on display. How does that make you feel looking at it now and the reach that it's had?
Yeah, well, definitely, that basically has kept me going, knowing that I'm having a definite impact. I'm really doing something special here. It is definitely up to us to tell our own stories in our own way, because as the old adage goes, history is written by the victors.
No justice, no peace!
In May of 2020, like so many around the world, Robert was rocked by the video of George Floyd's killing.
No justice, no peace!
What kind of impact did that have on you?
Well, the impact that had on me, it was really, I guess the same as everybody else, that it hurt me deeply to see someone pass away like that. But it's awkward when it's always like a Black male face is always brought into the conversation when we're talking about different social ills. And so consequently, it almost seems like there's a pattern to make people feel like as if Black males are the enemy, or they're somebody that's supposed to you be wary of, right? And when that message is consistently given to you, it can only make people grab their purse if they're in the elevator with you a little bit more cautiously. Unfortunately, as a Black male, I've always been perceived as a threat in different ways, right? I felt sad that it's still going on, but we have to change the climate that allows this to persist.
Looking at this reckoning on race from 2020, has it changed the way you think about who you put on display?
Yeah, with respect to my poster this year, I feature people who, fought against different issues with their life and persevered.
Robert believes depicting Black people in a positive light, documenting their stories, is helping to change the narrative. And the feedback from the community is evidence it's happening.
What's so amazing about the poster is that it really does serve as a living, breathing document that really archives the impact of so many African Canadians and their contributions, which sadly are missing from our textbooks.
I just really love the attention and the care that he puts into reproducing the images of these amazing Black Canadians.
What advice do you have for the next generation?
If you're going to make a contribution to the Black community or to society in general, that to think of it as a long-term goal. It's like these things are not going to change overnight, but you just keep on going despite what the negativity that you might feel within yourself, but also be empowered by the positive things that have occurred that keep you going.
And Robert hopes to keep going for years to come.
You can find more stories like this on our website, cbc.ca/beingbblackincanada, or check us out on Instagram at cbcbeingbblackincanada. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The Royal Alex Theatre will dim its marquee lights tomorrow to honor Toronto-born actor Christopher Plummer, who died today at the age of 91. Plummer appeared in dozens of plays and films during his long career that took him from the stage at Stratford to the Austrian Alps. Natalie Collada takes a look at his extraordinary life and legacy.
He was a legend, known best perhaps for his role as Captain Von Trapp in the classic film The Sound of Music, but also so much more.
He was hilarious.
Canadian actor Alan Hocko played alongside Plummer several times.
In the middle of his monologue, I have to walk in and hand him this piping hot coffee and then say my line. And as I walked in on the first take, not only did I forget my line, as I walked in, I clomped with my big, heavy feet. It was one of my first experiences in a feature. All over his lines. And he just took me aside and he was like, walk lighter. Just walk lighter.
Known to be a tad mischievous with a perpetual twinkle in his eye, Plummer was born in Toronto, raised in Montreal, eventually pinned with the Order of Canada that he proudly wore while becoming the oldest actor to win an Oscar. He was named Best Supporting Actor in 2012 for his role in The Beginners.
I'm glad I grew up in a really racy town. It was marvelous, and the cabaret was so important. We had everyone, Piaf, Chevalier, we had a young Judy Garland and Frank Sinatra, and you could see these people for nothing, just sitting at the bar and having a beer. It was a glorious time.
His career took him all over the world, starring in multiple films and TV series.
He commands a close-up better than any actor I've ever seen.
Once more, before the man in the bright nightgown comes for me.
But it was the stage that would continue to call him through his life, bringing him back to Ontario and the town of Stratford.
He left the country in the early 50s to go out into the world, and then all of a sudden, the most exciting thing happening in international theatre was happening back in Canada. And so he said, I got to go back.
Plummer took to the festival stage many times, including filling the role of Prospero in The Tempest and the lead character in King Lear.
He had this ability, Christopher did, of pulling the entire audience into his lap. And I'd never seen it before, and I've never seen it since.
Christopher Plummer was 91 years old. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.